looking back on the Big Old Dream box set, which came out and was about the Scottish independent music scene 77 to 89, punk year zero was 1976. For you, what was happening at the time in Glasgow? Did punk hit immediately? Because I think it was maybe a London thing to start with. What was going on?
We got gigs since I was probably about 11. The first one I went to was, I think, Elton John. Was Elton John at Kelvin Hall. That's how long. And back then, everyone from school was going to gigs, with paper rounds, or it's all kids, really young crowds, man, So we went through the whole Green's Playhouse thing, all through the Alice Coopers and Bowies and Stones. So the time we got to 75 and 76, we were probably, I was a big T-Rex fan, and they were playing at the, I can't remember if it was Green's Playhouse or Apollo at the time. I think it was still Green's Playhouse, and they were being supported by the Damned. And obviously we were all in the music papers, the sounds, everything, so you all knew that punk was a thing, right, That's the first time I kind of remember really being aware of it, people with Durexes on their ear and stuff like that, man, and just enough of a change. I was already going to Bruce's, and Bruce's records and Lisp records in Glasgow, they were all their shops were kind of one area, one street, H&B and stuff like that. First thing I ever bought, I remember, was Neil Reid for my mum, but I also bought Rocket Man by Elton John the same day. I had to walk home, right, so it was like that. We were very independent. Children were really independent in those days. I mean, I don't know what's happened, but no one took me to school, no one picked me up. It was so we went out during the day. There's no phones, no one to come and get you. We went home. We went home, So no one ever thought, where is he? Right? It's just that my dad was in night shift at Govan, so it was just a normal. This is all normal. So gigs to us were and music was a big part of our thing. We'd sit in people's houses with headphones, all headphones on, listening to Deep Purple and rock, We'd go and see ELP, we'd go and see Genesis, So, but when we got to things like that period of time, right, that's what that coincided was with underage drinking, basically, which then you would take you to a different kind of venue, the Burns House, Saints and Sinners, which was now King Tut's, Muscular Arms. These are all adventures to try and 14, 15
in your teenage years,
and you'd be going to pubs and you'd be asking for Moscow mules and snowballs, and the guy would say to you, fuck's sake, order a pint. You're just screaming out you're underage, so you would learn these things, and you'd be on your own. I'd go to gigs on my own, I would be no qualms about it. And then I started going to college, and I met up with a guy called Tom Quinn, a guy called Graham Muir, and he had a guitar, and we'd start going to see the first time the class kid I went with Tam, right, and an architect Tam, and then afterwards we'd bring our guitars into college. It was Florence Street down at the Gorbals Building College, and we'd start jamming, and then as you were going to Bruce's, there's a guy there called Arthur Haggett, and record shops were really social places, you wouldn't go in a record shop and buy records and leave. There would be fanzines there, and you'd talk, it'd be a real conversation, people would say to you, have you heard this record, and then I've got them all. But a lot to do with Arthur, a lot to do with people like Stephen Daly and Brian Superstar, who were also working in record shop. Everyone who was in the band I could think of, even Big John, he ended up in Nirvana, he was working on Listen, he was a big Genesis fan, but so it kind of you were kind of immersed in it, and you'd go home. I'd go clubbing a lot, again, Satellite Site was above the Apollo, right, and I was at the Apollo Satellite Site, and I know you saw it was played in James King, but I was only there because Simple Minds would met us, the Hendersons, through all the images. James had just cut Jim Kerr's hair, and I remember the poster thing came up. It was a great poster. I didn't know so much that they were joining the self-abusers, but I knew it was all part of the scene, So we went to that. We didn't see any of the first bands. We went to see Simple Minds. I didn't know there was 5 bands on before. I wish I had gone, but I didn't. I just went. I had a fanzine by that point, so I was just going around blagging it. I seen a fanzine called Fumes. I went up to the guy's house, and he said, "Well, just fucking do it." Right? I mean, it was just. I thought I was going to pick his brains. There were no brains to pick. I mean, he's a good, intelligent guy, but he just said, "Well, what do you need to know? Get fucking scissors and go and see some bands, man." And of course, so that was the punk scene for us wasn't the same way. We'd no Sex Pistols up here, you know, they were supposed to play here but they didn't play here, and they played in Dundee. But there's Elvis at Silverset Hotel, you know, there was Generation X, you know, there was
other bands coming through.
I never thought at any point they're punks. If you get my drift,
yeah.
You know, because in Glasgow the old Images were just starting to play and things. So I know there was talk of like, but then I mean, it's like when the fanzine thing was going for me, right, really going, and Madness were around and specials. Remember seeing the specials, Contrautomatics with the Clash, right, and you know, helping them in with it, try helping them with their gear, right, just to try and blag in, you know, just you know, like same with the, you know, other bands like the Banshees and things when they played here with the original Banshees. You're trying to be, you were hanging about,
be part,
not just me, tons of people, like, you know, like so you were realising how, but you know how good it was. I mean, like they weren't a great players. First time I saw her, just you know, it was like a love affair, man. Like, you know, it was. I met them actually in the street outside Lisson, I think it was. It's a Winston Street when I was at the time, and they were, our blogs might have been, and they were putting up the record in the window, and I just was like puppy dog, you know. Like, they were dead nice to me,
right,
you know.
Okay.
And I just saw them,
chat to them.
Well, just asked them what they were doing. Is that your record? And you know, and then I kind of like. Safety pinned myself onto them, you know, like they were really nice. But I went there every day, you know, you know, and then at that point, I thought the Images, they were trying to get me into it. Jerry, who's the manager of the Images, had got me a band with their Claire's best friend, big old Lucia, and they some of their road crew and some of their friends from school. And they were called that. Was called Otters Van Wars. We never actually called that, but Jerry told people we were called that, you know. And we supported all the Images. Our first two gigs, then the third gig was at the art school, the big cafe, right, during lunchtime. They did lunchtime gigs, right, so we set up there, and Alan and Edwin and Robert Sharp, the photographer I did take commands with, came down, and they were kind of like doing that hit or miss thing that I mentioned in the New Gold Dream, you know, right, and then Alan goes, the bands are all fucking dead and Eddie, man, you know, like, because they were covering Hill Boys, they weren't Eddie at all, they were lovely, man, right? But I was so into being part of that postcard scene that I'd, you know, been said, call yourself Reckless Eric, I'd probably done it, man, you know, right? But so that led to kind of like a laser postcard, which is, despite, you know, any acrimony later on, was a really great experience for all of us, you know, and we were all very close, and I mean, I work with James now, you know, and like the Paul Quinn records coming out again soon. I really enjoyed being part of that, you know. So the punk scene really, for me, without that, even though it's not a punk scene up here, you know, I mean, punk was Red Bolton, you know, and I met Red Bolton and James King, but I was more into the shambolic side of it, man. You know, right? I was into the fact that there's no doubt that all the Images are a great band, Oranges are a great band, but at the time you didn't. What you were going off on was they were just great people, you know, and that was the thing that was really attractive to me, you know.
Do you see? You mentioned a couple of fanzines. So was that an avenue for you to discover new music?
Well, most of them we were making up. I mean, like, I remember, like, you'd go. I mean, we didn't have a camera and stuff, but we were drawing people. You know, like a lot of times in Ten Commandments it was drawings. I did drawings with people. Then Robert Sharp came along. Harry was a big friend as well, man. And Robert's a really good photographer. He was taking pictures, and also have a photographer when you went to the stage door and say we've got a fanzine, can you get in? Was another big. Absolutely. I mean, it wasn't. I can't think of any gig that we didn't get into. We were going. You could go to Strathclyde, which was student only at Tech College, and you would still get in. You know, like, and then you get in there, you'd find John Dingle with his fanzine, or Jonathan Bernstein with his fanzine, you know, and James with his make-up fanzine. I mean, Alan had a fanzine called Swankers, man. You know, I didn't go to any gigs. And me and Edwin did one at the end called Wobbly Boards, and it was just, we didn't even bother going to see bands. We just sat in the house and drew pictures, like felt pen pictures, and said the gig was shitty, you know, or it really just depending on how we felt at the time for a laugh, man, you know. So, and it was 3 channels on TV, and then there was one bus, you know what I mean, like, so you were kind of like spending a lot of time together because you didn't want to go home, you know. So that was it, and then you spend a lot of time in Paris Market, and not so much the bars, but Paris Market mostly, and, you know, you were trying to find things that was like treasure hunters,
Yeah.
You know, if you had, I mean, I probably had at one point about 4 copies of the first Velvet's album, just because Paddy's Market seemed to be a fucking goldmine for people, obviously old. You know, now you'd be fucking ass. I remember finding the White album in Paddy's Market. You'd find things that you couldn't possibly. You think, who the hell? How would you get that? You'd find in suede jackets, motorcycle, but you'd find clothes that you wouldn't believe that you couldn't get now. Around the corner there's this fantastic two old guys man had this great suit place, and in it was packed full of like nothing but Holden Caulfield clothes, cord coats, from America, fantastic Austrian and German suits. So it was more than just the music, it was a really exciting thing,